DJ Demetrious Johnson is still underrated. With the rise of Pantoja through the flyweight division and his dominance in getting and keeping the flyweight belt, many people have him at the same level, if not even better, than DJ. With his fight against Joshua Van coming up in about a week's time, I'm here to talk about why DJ is still the GOAT and he's still weighing away is quite a bit ahead of Pantoja when it comes to the flyweight GOAT debate. So let's get into it. Starting off, the first thing about Demetrious Johnson is he's a little guy, he's a little pipsqueak, and he's called Mighty Mouse for a reason, and he hasn't had a height or size advantage really in any one of his fights. Especially at the start of his career, he actually was in the bantamweight division in the WEC and in the UFC, so he had to fight bantamweights, man, and he was a very small bantamweight, obviously, 5'3". He had to fight Dominic Cruz, who was the bantamweight GOAT. Not at the time, but went on to be the bantamweight GOAT eventually, before obviously Marab came in and just did what he's doing. He's absolutely crazy. But yeah, Demetrious Johnson, like, very small, and he's had to overcome this disadvantage in every one of his fights. Pantoja, obviously, he's small too. They're both in the flyweight division, but Pantoja's about 5'5", I think. Demetrious Johnson's like 5'3". He might even be shorter. And yeah, Pantoja's like a normal size flyweight. Obviously, there's bigger flyweights, 5'8", like Brandon Royval, Steve Erceg. They're pretty tall and long. But yeah, Demetrious Johnson very small compared to even the flyweights at his time. He was never the tallest. He was never even taller in any one of his matchups. He has had a reach advantage, I think once or twice. But other than that, physicality wise and just based off the stats, he has been the underdog in terms of the stats, at least, for pretty much every one of his fights. On to the head-to-head matchup. I think Demetrious Johnson has the best chance out of any flyweight in the world, active or inactive, retired or unretired, to beat Pantoja. Apart from maybe Muhammad Makayev, who isn't in the UFC, unfortunately, I don't think anyone has a chance against Pantoja. If Joshua Van, in the next coming week, can stuff the takedowns, can get rid of the submission attempts, I think he has a good chance of beating Pantoja on the feet, but I just don't know. Pantoja has just been so dominant on the ground at taking the bag, slapping that rear naked choke on all these top flyweight contenders. I don't know if Joshua Van is the guy to do it. I mean, Joshua Van, he shot up from like basically unranked to like number one contender in like one or two fights. I don't know if he's gonna have the experience necessary, let alone on the ground with Pantoja. I don't know. I really just don't know if he's ready for a championship fight with Pantoja just yet. But hopefully he can get it done. But I just don't know if he can. I think Demetrious Johnson has the best chance. Demetrious Johnson's jiu-jitsu, I mean, his all-round game in the mixed martial arts, he is a true mixed martial artist. He is a savant when it comes to the striking, the wrestling, the grappling. I think he's one of the only people whose jiu-jitsu is going to be good enough to defend the chokes. His wrestling is going to be good enough to defend the wrestling of Pantoja. The only people I see in the flyweight division currently with good enough wrestling is maybe Tatsuro Taira. He has really good jiu-jitsu. His wrestling isn't as good, but his jiu-jitsu is very good, so I think he would give Pantoja trouble on the ground and at least be able to not be choked out as easily as some of these other guys. Yeah, I think Demetrious Johnson has a really good chance. Obviously, he's a lot older than Pantoja, and I know there's like zero chance of him coming back, but this is just for like the hypothetical situation of the matchup. When it comes to the striking, I mean, this may sound silly, but he did survive a round in there with Rodtang in the one championship mixed rules fight. He did survive a round in the Muay Thai with Rodtang. That shows he has great Muay Thai. Obviously, I don't think he's a better Muay Thai fighter than Rodtang. He was like running for his life, low-key. But he was putting up good shots against Rodtang. He was eating the shots too. His Muay Thai is good. Like, it just sucks that Demetrious Johnson was traded from the UFC 2-1. I think I think he was just starting to become an. I don't think he was just starting to become a name, but I think if he stuck around with all these other flyweight contenders, Demetrious Johnson would be such a bigger name. I think he might just be the all around like undeniable GOAT if he stuck around and beat some more people. Obviously, he lost to Henry Cejudo in a split decision, very close, very controversial. Hardly got It wasn't a dominant loss. He was in there the whole time. Um, and the UFC just got rid of him, man. I think Demetrious Johnson has the best chance against Pantoja out of out of anyone currently at flyweight. I think if Pantoja goes up to bantamweight, Merab like schools him. I mean, I think everyone thinks that Merab's just insane. But I honestly, if they were to fight right now, if Demetrious Johnson was to magically come out of retirement, I would favor Pantoja. To be honest, I mean, like, how can you not? But I still would give a very good chance to Demetrious Johnson, and wouldn't be surprised if he was able to get it done. Now, onto their individual legacies and records. Demetrious Johnson, 15-2 in the UFC. Obviously, he did have those couple fights outside the UFC, and I've included his win over Adriano Moraes in lesser wins, which is a pretty good. I mean, Adriano Moraes was a champion and won. Obviously, one. I think we're starting to see that isn't up to tier with the UFC. Obviously, it isn't, with RDR getting absolutely fraud checked by Brendan Allen. Just how good is Anthony Hernandez? But still a good win. I think although RDR obviously double champ and won and got fraud checked by Brendan Allen in the UFC, I don't think that's because one is a bad promotion. I think it is a bad promotion and has a lot less talent in those higher weight classes, especially, and we saw that. But in the lower weight classes, man, I think one is a very good promotion. Obviously, it's an Asian promotion, and Asians are smaller in general, so you're gonna have a lot of those little Asians in one who are killers, man. The Muay Thai guys, but also you're talking about MMA. I think in the lower weight classes, one is a very good promotion, man. And Demetrious Johnson obviously got a couple wins in there, but obviously onto his UFC record. He has a win over Henry Cejudo, Joseph Benavidez, Ray Borg, and Kyoji Haraguchi. I'll get into that later. I really want to talk about that. Lesser wins over Tim Elliott and Adrian Moraes. Let's talk about Tim Elliott. Obviously, he kind of got an undeserved title shot. Showed off the Ultimate Fighter to fight Demetrious Johnson. And Demetrious Johnson did his thing. The GOAT, obviously. But many people overlooked Tim Elliott, man. Like earlier this year, he was able to go in there against Kai Sakura and put on a crafty unk performance. He submitted him. Obviously, Kai Sakura, no ground game, no grappling. But Pantoja beat Kai Sakura too for title defense. So when people always bring up, oh, title defense is this, title defense is that, Kai Sakura is one of Pantoja's title defenses, and Tim Elliott, out of his prime, old man Elliott, destroyed him. Well, maybe not destroyed. On the feet in the first round, Kai Sakura was doing pretty well, but Tim Elliott was able to go in there and beat him. So Tim Elliott is just as good of a win as Kai Sakura, if not even better. Actually, what am I saying? It's 100% a better win than Kai Sakura. Unless Kai Sakura can go and make improvements to his wrestling and come back and, be a solid contender in he's actually in the bantamweight division now. In the bantamweight division, I don't think he's going to. That bantamweight division is very good. So Tim Elliott, great win. Cejudo the first time, obviously Cejudo double champ, great win. Benavidez, Ray Borg. Let me just say this about a lot of Demetrious Johnson's early wins. All these guys were around just before the flyweight division was created, so that means they were fighting in the bantamweight division, whether it be in WEC or, same thing, WEC, UFC. In order for these guys to be in the flyweight division in the UFC, they had to be a small bantamweights in the bantamweight division before. And if you're smaller than someone in a division, in order to beat them, you have to have more skill. You have to overcome that size advantage. Which means all of these people that Demetrious Johnson was fighting, who are supposedly no names, and people call them cans, they had to be very skilled in order to be in that bantamweight division so they could then join the new flyweight division. They had to be very, very skilled bantamweights. Basically, the most skilled bantamweights at the time. And the only thing that was knocking them is obviously they didn't have the size to be in that bantamweight division. So a lot of these wins from Demetrious Johnson that people just like you've never heard of these guys are very good. They're very skilled, and they're very underrated themselves. And what that means at the end of the day is Demetrious Johnson's legacy is underrated. And just because these guys you've never heard of them doesn't mean they're bad. They're very good. They're very good. And just think about the fact that Demetrious Johnson was underpromoted as a champion. He was overlooked as a champion. So can you think about how much the contenders in his division were underrated? So let's get into Pantoja's UFC record and his legacy and his wins. Now, obviously, this is a video about Demetrious Johnson, about why he's underrated. But I'm not just going to sit here and try slander Pantoja's legacy. I am going to give him props. He has great wins. Brandon Moreno, both Brandons, Manel Cap. Maybe possibly he's gonna have a win over Joshua Van. I think he's gonna get it done. I don't know the odds, but Pantoja's gonna have to be a heavy favorite going into that fight. Lesser wins: Kaya Sakura, Steve Erceg, Kai Kara France. Steve Erceg did give him a very close fight, and he's gone on to lose his next couple fights and not be what we thought he was going to be, a staple contender. I mean, he is still a contender, but we thought he'd be like top 5 staple contender in the flyweight division, and he's just not. He had to get that clutch win over Ode Osborne, or he might have been cut from the UFC, to be honest. Kai Sakura, again, not the best win. Not doing. I mean, he hasn't got a win in the UFC just yet. Kai Kara France got that win over Steve Erceg. Now he just dipped from the flyweight division. We don't know what he's doing. But that's enough hating. Great wins. Brandon Moreno, the former champion. Brandon Royval. I mean, Brandon Moreno, Royval, and Pantoja, they've just gone back and forth. Rock, paper, scissors, you know what I mean? Manel Cap, he's a very good contender. Joshua Van, if he can beat Joshua Van, I think that is going to do huge things for his legacy, because I think Joshua Van is going to be a mainstay in the top 5, in the top 10, in flyweight. I think he's a future champ. I think he's like 24 or 25. If he beats Pantoja, he'll be the second youngest champion ever, bar John Jones. So, yeah, I think Joshua Van's going to stick around. He fights basically 3-4 times a year. Just crazy. I love Joshua Van, man. I'd love to see him as champion. Not just because I want Demetrious Johnson to stay the GOAT, but just in general, how can you not love Joshua Van? He puts a show on every time he's in the octagon. But now let's get into why I made this video. Kyoji, the crafty Unk vet Horiguchi, last week beat Tagielembekov, submitted him, dominated him, and destroyed him, basically. Submitted him in round 2. Who does that to Tagielembekov? Who does that to Tagielembekov? I think Tagielembekov came in with 17-2, regular 17-1. I'm not sure. I'll check that. But he came in very good record. He has that Dagestani aura behind him. He had Islam in his corner, and Kyoji Horiguchi went out there and destroyed him, man. This guy's he's 35. I talked about this in my other video. He's 35. He's fought in every MMA promotion. He's actually a double promotional champ in Bellator and in Ryzen. And like I said, man, in the lower weight classes, especially, I feel like these other promotions are pretty good. In the higher weight classes, the lower promotions 100%. Just way below the UFC. I mean, even the UFC's heavyweight division is just anyone can get into that, respectfully. But yeah, Kyoji Horiguchi, one of Demetrious Johnson's wins, man. He did fight him when he was 24. He was a lot younger. Obviously, is he in his prime now? Is he better than when he fought Demetrious Johnson? Yeah, probably. That still doesn't take away from Demetrious Johnson's win, though. And I think he's going to do pretty good things in this flyweight division in the UFC. I think he's going to get a couple more wins, and I think that's just going to strengthen Demetrious Johnson's legacy. yeah, Kyoji Haraguchi just very underrated as a fighter. I don't know why he wasn't in the UFC. I don't know if there was some disputes, contracts, something like that. But yeah, I think he could have competed in the UFC for his whole career, and because he didn't, he is pretty underrated, and no one's gonna view him as such. But obviously now in the UFC, he is a mainstay contender. I think they put him at like seventh, sixth or seventh. Oh my god, god, sixth or seventh, around seventh ranking in the UFC now. So yeah, that'll be really good to see if he did actually he'd actually call for his title shot against Pantoja, and I think he might be able to give him a good shot. I don't know. I don't know. That may sound stupid to say, but obviously he's his teammate. He trains with him. That would give him a big advantage, as it would Pantoja though as well. But Pantoja's also quite old. I think they're around. I think they're the same age. I think they're both 35. So maybe the only way to beat a crafty unk like Pantoja is to be a crafty unk yourself. So yeah, and if that were to happen, if Kyoji Haraguchi was to beat Pantoja, even if he was to give him like a tough five, like a split decision, 5 rounds, that would just make Demetrious Johnson's legacy that much more impressive. I think he'd be undeniable at that point. And I just want to add one more thing. Kyoji Haraguchi has only ever lost at bantamweight in these other promotions. I don't know if he has any losses in the UFC just yet. I think he might have. He has a loss obviously to Demetrious Johnson, but that is at flyweight. So all of his losses have only come upper weight class at bantamweight. So I think that's also really impressive from him, and another reason why he is very underrated as a fighter and as a name on Demetrious Johnson's legacy. So overall, closing off, this video is it's not meant to be like a hit piece on Pantoja. I love Pantoja. I think he's a great champion. I think he's very entertaining, and I think he's underrated in of himself as a champion. In the UFC, I think the UFC underpromotes him. I think only now they're just starting to see him as a great champion, which he is. But I think he suffers from the same issue as Demetrious Johnson, where like the flyweight division is overlooked. The UFC doesn't care about it. The fans don't care about it. Obviously, the hardcores really, really love Demetrious Johnson. Do I consider myself a hardcore? No, not really. I'm a pretty casual fan. Can't lie. But yeah, Petter's still very good. I think he can obviously beat Demetrious Johnson. I think he's going to stick around in the game quite long and rack up a lot of impressive wins. A lot of contenders coming up. Tatsuro Taira is coming up. I think he could beat him. Obviously Joshua Van next week. Muhammad Bakayev if he comes up, and whatever other contenders. Some of the young prospects coming in, I think in a couple years' time he may be able to beat those guys. I don't see him sticking around past maybe 2-3 years, especially if he loses his belt. But yeah, I think Demetrious Johnson's still very amazing legacy, still underrated, and just still underrated overall on the GOAT list, flyweight or not, as a fighter. I've seen people put him out of the top 10 because they discredit the wins he had early on in his career because they're cans and they're nobodies. A big thing is, a lot of these guys, they would have been champions, but Demetrious Johnson was just there smoking everyone. So a lot of these guys, you could put them as former champion wins, but they could just never achieve that title because Demetrious Johnson is there. And so people overlook them and don't see them as good. Don't see them as good as former champions like a Brandon Moreno, who used to be a champion. With that being said, that's the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you got to this point, like, comment, share, subscribe, all that stuff. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.